we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'll just introduce myself a little bit like I already did. And I'm Deidre Boylan. I work at the Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and I've been there for a little over 5 years. Prior to that, I worked at New Beginnings in Seattle. I worked there for 25 years. So I was the manager of the shelter for 10 years, which I love and I miss dearly, which might sound crazy to some folks, but I just love the shelter. I love being there and working with folks, and just that, I don't know, something about shelter work was just fun and exciting, and like it just fed me. And so when I moved out of that, I really miss it a lot. But I do love supporting all of you guys and doing this work, because somehow I found passion in it. And I just want to share that. So, and I just want folks to know, like, working in a shelter doesn't have to be so hard. We can make it easy. So that's me. How about you, June?
You want to advance the slide? Because we have the...
Oh, sure. That is a skill that I think I have. Let me see. Look at that.
There we go. So like Dee said, we're usually sitting right next to each other when we do this. So this is the first time we've done this through Zoom remotely from 2 different locations, with our tech support in a 3rd location. So this has been a challenge for us. I mean, Deidre has been doing webinars with Zoom since we all went into COVID mode, but this is my first time. And we're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. So a lot of you have seen us and met us before. And you can see on our bios here, we've both been doing this for a long, long time. And Deidre and I have been together for a long, long time. We met at New Beginnings at this point over 30 years ago. So I always say we are getting old together. And we've stayed connected, obviously, through this entire time through working together at New Beginnings. I started there in the community advocacy program. Actually, no, I started there as a volunteer on the crisis line at the shelter. So that's where we met, was at the shelter. And then I was at the community advocacy program, and I was a manager there. And I was at New Beginnings for 17 years. And then I transitioned to working at the YWCA, Seattle King County, which is a very large YWCA. And I was the regional director in South King County. And as part of that South King County program, we had a domestic violence program. And so I got to still keep connected with domestic violence. And it was during that time I was the board chair at the coalition. So I've always stayed connected. Even when I retired, I continued to volunteer and do these consulting gigs and occasional trainings for the coalition. So it's just been my passion forever and will continue to be. I also currently serve on the board of Women Helping Women, which is a domestic violence program in Maui, Hawaii. And that's a long story, and it's a beautiful story. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Peely, who is the deputy director there, is going to be in on this webinar. So it's been just really wonderful to be able to continue the pieces that I've learned and carry it over through a different program in a different state. So that's where we're at. We've done this training in particular at the DV conference, the annual conference. We've done in a couple places around the state. So we do know several of you, and we've really loved meeting you and talking with you. So this is also more of the same, but we've got some new stuff in here too. And we're just in a new and crazy time. So we really are going to spend some time addressing how y'all are doing this through quarantine and through health crisis.
Yeah. Thanks, June.
And thanks for the comments about the background. I personally miss Disneyland a lot. So this is me in front of the Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. And Deidre has a beautiful setup there.
I love it.
I've been looking at your bedroom for months. Now I get to see this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is other furniture collected to do staging, right?
It's aesthetically beautiful.
You guys are so lucky that we can't see you. See, I had to actually get up and like put clothes on and
all I know.
It's work. It's work. So today we're going to really explore working smarter, not harder. And obviously, like, we always want to do that. Like, that's a key, is working smarter, not harder. I mean, we all work hard. that's a given. We just do that. But we want to make sure that what you do on a daily basis, that you're actually putting a plan in place so that you're not reinventing the wheel, because that's what's real important. Sharing success stories. Some of you guys have shared some stuff, and we want you to be able to put things in the chat, so we'll get to that. Solutions to challenging supervision situations. We've heard a few things, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And, you know, we're all working through this. So, you know, it's going to be fine. Like June said here, everything's fine, fine, fine. It's fine.
We're fine, you're fine, we're all fine. Fine.
We're all fine. And we're all going to get through it together. We're going to do it together. So,
well, I guess I also wanted to kick off one more second, Dee.
Yeah,
I just wanted to kick off and just remind you guys that you're doing great. You are great. I mean, the you're fine, we're fine, everything's fine. That's a little bit tongue in cheek, right? It's what we do as a coping mechanism. But far be it from us to take away your coping mechanisms, especially at this time. You just do what you need to do to stay afloat. But I just think you're doing great. I mean, from the calls that the coalition has been getting, it's a hard time. And it's not that you're going to be great working through a crisis at this level for months and months. It's okay to take a dip and just take a breath, but you're doing fantastic work. You're keeping these shelters going at a time that people can barely hold it together in their own home without domestic violence, without a threat of physical and emotional harm. You're just doing incredible work and you're doing great. And I'm going to start with that and I'm going to end with that I want you to just take that to heart about how fantastic you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of stories from folks out in the field, and just like, we're all doing this and you guys are working so hard, and we're working hard without actual solutions to things, right? Because we just don't know the way of the world anymore. So it's almost like we're learning things day by day by day. And that's kind of a hard limbo to be in. So we know that it's really tough, but we feel like I've heard so much good stuff from folks and how hard people are working. And it made me think about what we're about to talk about is like, basically as managers, we have an endless supply, you know, of just like challenges. Things pop up all the time. Like things, the minute you think you've solved one problem, another one is right around the corner. And it's like, how do we manage through that? How do we get through that? And somehow we as shelter managers and workers and advocates and supervisors, you know, we, like June just did, we brush our hair back and we keep going, right? We get up in the morning.
Ponytail. It's serious when you put the ponytail in.
Yeah, when you put the ponytail in. But, people turn to us again and again and again because somehow we provide solutions to what's happening. And so, it's like, where do we get that from? Where does that energy come from? And so I was talking to June and I said, June, and the second part right here to this slide says, let's all stop for a moment to take a deep breath and think about 9/11. And as we were putting this together, I said to June, it takes me back to when 9/11 happened and we were just stopped in our tracks, literally stopped in our tracks. And I remember I was saying to June, I got up that morning and I was watching the news and it paralyzed. But then get this, I got my kid ready for school. I got dressed. I dropped him off at school. Actually, June and I called each other.
No, we were together. I mean, we
called each other in the morning.
We've been together.
Yes.
Is that everybody has a memory of 9/11, but mine was that my daughter Chelsea came in and said, Mom, I need you to come look at the TV, because I was getting ready for work. Deidre and I were co-leading the staff meeting at New Beginnings that morning. And we called each other. I don't know who called who, but we got on the phone and we said, are you seeing this? Like, what the heck, what is going on? And we were just back and forth, and we decided, we just got to press on. So we each took our children to school, which in retrospect,
right,
I think is a little crazy.
Yes.
That we did that. We dropped our kids off at school and we went to work, and the staff was there and we were together. I think that was the highlight, or the upside of this, is the staff was together. We brought the TV into the room. it's what you do when you're kind of in crisis mode. You
Right.
just take it next step by next step by next step and figure
Right.
out what should I do.
Right.
And, you
Right.
know, we did
And
our
I
best.
Right. And I think the thing is that we also kind of just went back to work. Like the phones were still ringing, people still need services. However, it was paralyzing to us and to, I'm sure to many people, but we kind of kept going. But in hindsight, I think I think if I could have actually said, we need to slow this train down and take a pause and acknowledge that this is impacting not only the participants who need our services, but our staff. Like, we can't expect our staff to provide at a level way up here when they're also, impacted by what was happening in our country. But I don't think we really did that. I think we just kept chugging along. And so it was pretty traumatizing, I think. And it made me think about this situation where, we jumped into that mode. And granted, this situation took place across our whole country in every state. And we all just sort of jumped into that mode of like, what do I do next? How do I work this out? How do I figure this out? What's going to happen? Is Governor Inslee going to say something? Like, so we just keep going. And when are we going to press the pause button? When does that happen? When do we press the pause button, not only for ourselves, but for our staff? Because I know that I didn't hear of any programs shutting down, which of course makes sense. But how do we keep going when the crisis is not only affecting people who are coming to us, but affecting us as well? So it's just something that I thought about, like, here's an opportunity to slow this train down and figure out, like, I don't want to look back in 2 years, 4 years, 5 years and say, God, I should have slowed that train down. Now is the time to slow it down and actually do some thinking and some planning.
Right, because we know that you all have programs, like some programs, maybe community-based programs, mobile advocacy, or whatever. You've been able to have that staff work from home, and the change here is you've got shelter staff who are working, many of them still running around the clock, right? 24-hour shelter services. So you don't have that staff working from home, but you maybe have part of your staff working from home. And we just recognize that as a supervisor, that's a challenge.
Yep.
We're going to get into more detail about that, but
Yep.
we're here to help you. We're here to talk through that. We really want you to use this chat box and just help each other through this, because we know that this is a challenge right now, that this is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And here, this is me saying, slow it down. I added a snail, June.
I like the snail.
So take a moment to figure out what the crisis is. What's the crisis? Like, and what constitutes a crisis? I just remember, like, being in the shelter and like everything felt like a crisis. I mean, if someone said, oh my God, we ran out of bacon, it was like a crisis, right? Who's going to go to the store? There's no bacon and eggs, and everything was a crisis. Like, oh, whatever, the doorbell isn't working. Well, that's actually thank goodness it's not. But, that's a crisis if we feel like we don't know if someone's at the door. And it's all depends on how we react to the situation. If we bring it all the way up to here and make it feel like it's a crisis, it's going to be a crisis. But if we can just bring it back down and determine what actually constitutes a crisis. And I remember I shared this with folks and I said, well, let's see. Did anyone pass away? Nope. Was the building on fire? Nope. Was someone in the building in labor? Nope. Okay, so what is the news there? Did the news camera show up in our program? Nope. Okay, so what constitutes a crisis? Like, if you can narrow that down for folks and talk about crisis versus situation, because situations you can talk through those and problem solve. Crisis means our brains are moving so fast, it's kind of hard to problem solve, and we probably need to also slow that down as well. And then talk to someone, have some conversation, think it through. Like, if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a step back from the situation.
Well, I think it's a challenge. I remember when 9/11 happened, I was glued to the TV. I could not get enough news, and it was terrifying. And it was like trauma porn is what they call it, right? And it's a very different time with all this social media that we have now. You can literally consume yourself 24 hours a day on multiple platforms. You know, in 2001, you could still consume a lot, but it wasn't at this level. And so I think, you know, limiting, because, you know, Deirdre's saying, you know, determine what a real crisis is. Well, when you turn on the TV, it is a global crisis. It is pandemic. All you hear is the word crisis, crisis, crisis. It's really hard to not physically and emotionally react to that, because you are being told from 360 all the way around you that this is a crisis. So it's really hard to, like Dee said, figure out what's a situation versus is this a crisis? Yeah, we're in a crisis, and you're all feeling it, and you're all operating at crisis level, you know? And I think in those off times when you're not at a 10 is the time you can kind of readjust and reconfigure what's next.
Right. And I think a crisis really, like, I wrote here on the notes, like, phone a friend, ask someone else. If you're not in the frame of mind to determine whether or not this is a crisis, talk to someone. Usually someone on the outside could be a little more rational and let you know and sort of talk you down a little bit. I say phone a friend, talk to someone, create a plan, involve key folks, like go talk to the director, get in touch with someone from the board. Problem solve with someone who you feel you can trust and connect with and has sound, solid advice for you. And then have that conversation. I just really recommend slowing it down because that crisis feeling actually spills off onto other people and puts other people into a panic mode.
Well, and I think here what you say, take a few notes on, detail what's going on, is another great coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Whether if you're already a journaler and you journal, this is a great time to just kind of document your feelings and what's going on, because this is one of those things that this is going on for a long time, and it's going to be really hard to recreate these weeks and months of your life, our life, the world. And so however you choose to document, whether you are somebody who likes to journal and write it down, take pictures, use a social media platform. For example, I post on Instagram a lot, and I have a highlight called COVID 2020. And, you know, I'm posting a lot of, you know, what I made for dinner and these plants and flowers that I see in my yard or on my walk. And, you know, it's very
uplifting,
kind of inane. You think it's uplifting, but you know, we do what we want to do to try to soothe ourselves. But for me, it's a level of, this is how I'm documenting this time in my life. And it's, you know, it's all in one spot. You can use Facebook, you know, whatever, but I'm just saying it can kind of be a nice outlet to document. You know, it doesn't have to be daily, it can be weekly, but just, you know, how you doing, what's going on. If you're on social media at all, you're seeing all sorts of tools and ways to do this. But I really like that we're just taking a pause to say, document what's going on around you. And this is different than the shelter log, the secret shelter log.
The shelter log, which brings me to say that, you know, I think the language that was used many, many years ago to develop the programs that we have today, it still really creates a path of how we do our work. And so a lot of programs had the word crisis in them, right? Like crisis lines and crisis programs and crisis shelters. And we, you know, help folks in crisis. And so that's something to actually think about, is like, what message are you sending to people in the information that you share about who you are? And you can change that. You can change that vibe of your program by just changing some words that actually include people and invite them in a way that's an environment that's more inclusive and not in crisis situation. So I think thinking about the language that has been used to describe your program for years and how that impacts the work that you do. So how to work smarter, not harder. And we talked about this. Plan ahead. If you can plan ahead, please plan ahead. Now, granted, we didn't know this situation was going to happen. No clue. Had no idea it was going to happen.
We didn't know we were going to run out of toilet paper. right? And I know shelters, I know particularly the Maui program, they were out of a lot, and it was very scary, and it's an island and it's isolated, and a lot of the major resorts donated stuff to Women Helping Women, and it was a lifesaver. I mean, here in the Seattle, King County, Washington, we had more access, but if anybody tried to go to Costco in the past couple months, you know it was happening there. So it's hard to plan ahead. You don't think you're going to run out of toilet paper. Now they're saying there's going to be a run on meat. So people, I think, are panicking about meat. You know, it's just hard to stay ahead, but you got to try.
Yeah. And, you know, the funny thing is I don't eat a lot of meat. So I eat a lot of veggie meat. And I thought, oh my gosh, now all the veggie meat's going to be gone. So now I have, you know, that's my thing is I got to get to the store and get all the veggie stuff I can get before it all gets bought up. But I'm not going to fall into that crisis because I don't actually have to have it. It's just it's a great treat. But I think, you know, if you plan ahead and if you can plan ahead, and planning ahead really to me, and I think we had this conversation, June, is about sitting down with other folks to talk about like, how do we plan for the next step? And we don't really know what the next thing is going to be. We don't know if we're going to be in quarantine longer. We don't know if they're going to lift it and, you know, people are going to fly away like birds. But if you set a meeting to actually have some conversation about what people are thinking about, what they see for the next steps, what they see, whether that's with the board, whether that's with community folks, whether that's with your staff, like think about setting up meetings with people to just engage and find out and through Zoom, but engage about like what comes next and how do we deal with the things that are going to come up next. And we don't know, we don't have all the answers to what those are, but just in your head. And I know one of them is the technology thing. Everyone's still struggling with technology. So how do we figure that out? And money, like money. How do we figure out the money situation? Keeping morale up. Again, setting meetings with your staff, informing them of how you're doing, what you're doing, the meetings that you're having with other management, other team members, the board. As long as that loop is continuing to go around and around and you're sharing information, that's actually going to keep morale up. That is what folks want to know. They want to know what you're thinking as a supervisor. They want to know what your plan is as a supervisor. They want to know if you're actually thinking about them while you're planning. And then inviting them to do some fun things. I know at the coalition, you know, we have lunchtime on Fridays. We call it Fun Time Lunchtime. And we all Zoom in on Fridays at noon and we have lunch together. And it's just kind of a fun thing. And we have themes. We had hat day. We had sunglasses day. Everything has to be from the, you know, like the waist up, right? So hat day, sunglass day. We had joke day. Everybody had to come with a joke. We had, this Friday is going to be potluck. So you got to bring a dish virtually to do a potluck. But just keeping people connected brings a little fun. And we just talk about like anything and everything. It's fun time to enjoy and not necessarily talk about the negative effects of COVID, right? It's like, you know, fun stuff. And on Mondays, we have Monday stand up where everybody can come together and we answer 3 questions, which are, what was your success from last week? What are you working on this week? And what sort of help do you need from the group? And that just gives a clue in for everybody of what we're all doing. And it's been really helpful. If you want more information about that, please feel free to contact me. I'm sure there's other things out there that you guys are doing to keep morale up. I hear that folks are doing virtual meetings. People are checking in with one another. So that is good. And it's real important because it can really feel isolating being at home for folks. I know.
Also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, finish.
Oh, I was just saying it can be isolating because, I mean, you know, we're all working from home.
Yeah. Well, we put set meetings to ... It is a reminder to reevaluate what you're meeting about on Zoom. If you've got standing meetings that are not really that fruitful or necessary, just cancel them. It's okay. People are overwhelmed, you guys. You're overwhelmed. Your staff is overwhelmed. Do not keep a bunch of meetings that don't really need to be there, just to make sure everybody's logged in or just to check in. You know, we want you to check in with your folks, but unnecessary meetings are unnecessary. Right? I mean, just really evaluate what your meeting structure is and do you really need to do it? And if you're the type of supervisor that really needs to see that your staff is where they need to be at certain times, maybe it's time to just ease up on that a little bit.
Yeah. And we talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was doing is I did check-ins with folks that I supervise, and I did them weekly, once a week. And at first it started out, you know, I booked an hour. And then as time has passed, we only need like 30 minutes now. But so many things were changing and we were talking about things. But it's great to check in once a week, see how folks are doing, assess the needs of the staff. And it's a quick, it could be 15-minute check-in. It doesn't even have to be 30 minutes. But I like to make sure I'm supporting staff as much as I can. And it's helpful for me to know what's going on. So, and I'm a people person, so I kind of like it like that. So you can always, you're going to see this throughout this webinar. There's lots of reference to connecting with NNEDV, WSCDIV, the CDC, DOH. That you'll see that a little bit more on some of the slides. And most of that's really because these are the folks that I feel like are going to give you information that you need. So always go to those websites to check in if you have questions about things. A lot of their websites have information for you. So stay in contact with your funders. Managing emotions. So life in the time of COVID, who would have ever thought? I think this has just been crazy.
You're going to have staff that are highly emotional right now. Obviously, you've been dealing with this for a couple of months. You're going to have staff that don't want to be there. And, you know, just like with 9/11, you know, and we keep bringing up 9/11 because it's the only massive situation that comes close to equating to what we're going through now. But you've got some people that are in a panicky mode that don't feel like they feel safe anywhere, let alone at a shelter, right? So I think working with those folks individually about how that's going to work for them to even stay on the job, or reassign them to do something else, I think is, yeah, because I'd be surprised if 100% of your shelter staff is on board. And by 100%, I mean across the state, not in your particular program. But I think really just when you do those check-ins, talking to them, you know, are you okay? Are you okay working, you know, here, covering this shift? Rather than just assuming, hey, we're all pressing forward, we're all doing what we need to do. You know, some people are not okay, and we need to recognize that.
Right.
And the next big one, I think, is, and we saw this across the board, is while in quarantine, you know, we're supposed to just shut it down, but bringing in new residents without compromising the current household. Some houses, some shelters are just absolutely at capacity. We'd love to see some chatter here in the chat box.
Chatter.
Yeah. So any thoughts about this? Because we know this is a big issue with shelter staff, is how to do a lockdown when you're bringing in new residents. Like, have you stopped that? Like, were you able to just shut the house down essentially? I don't know how else to put it. Right.
Right. And I've heard
just not take.
Yeah, I've heard that some folks, like if someone comes in, they do take temperatures. They have their own rooms. Some programs have, some shelters have folks who have their own room. They might have a refrigerator in their own room. They might have a TV in their own room. So I think folks are definitely still taking participants. They're doing as much caution as possible with providing, you know, hand sanitizers and wipes and cleaning stuff and whatever they can. And they're taking turns in the communal kitchen. So I've been hearing some of that. I know that sometimes it's been challenging, but for the most part, I really feel like a lot of shelters have figured this out and they're doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, so if you have any thoughts about that, put that in the chat. Because I think shelters are still doing it. They're bringing folks in and they're actually doing pretty well with keeping it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, we're asking screening questions and providing hand sanitizing supplies. That's great, Shannon. Thanks. Yeah. Um,
So here, I'll ask another question.
okay. So one of the other bullet points is turnover. And obviously this turnover can be where you've got folks coming and going within your shelter. How is that? How, you know, can you hold that down for a little bit? I remember I was talking to someone about, well, you've got a 90-day stay or a 60-day stay. So, you know, can you just, you know, wait those 90 days from the last person that you brought in and then not do anything for another 90 days? So just thinking about ways to figure that out. I highly recommend, if you have questions about your contract compliance, contact your contract monitors. Please, please, please ask them questions, talk to them. If you feel like you need to get approval on something, talk to them. If it's approval about something in your contract, don't talk to me. I don't have any say so about that, but please contact your contract monitors. Staffing.
One sec. We have one person that said they have 2 assigned sick rooms and 2 sick bathrooms.
Wow.
No one has been sick yet. Well, hallelujah. Lots of bickering between residents about who's not sanitizing and sanitizing after their kids. Yeah, there's a lot of policing going on. And I would imagine in a high stress situation like a shelter, that's happening a lot. I mean, if you know, I'm on my neighborhood blog a lot, reading on Facebook, and there is so much drama around who's wearing a mask while they're out walking, who's not wearing a mask at the store. So there's a lot of, because people are nervous themselves, right?
Yeah.
So you imagine being in the shelter, how, you know, people are fussing over other people's kids all the time anyway. Imagine, you know, now, right?
And I think you're right, because even when I go to the grocery store, I mean, I feel like the oddball because I'm the one wearing gloves and mask. And I'm like, is no one else wearing a mask? But I can't police people. Do you want to read that chat, June?
Yeah, there's a great, okay, screening before sheltering, cleaning twice a day, sanitizing, and they have separate rooms so people are kept 6 feet apart at least.
Yeah.
This is an interesting tip. When someone leaves, we shut down their room for 120 hours before the staff cleans it.
Wow.
So there's something that one program is doing. Screening questions, they all have separate rooms providing thermometers and hand sanitizers, cleaning supplies, and the shelter manager disinfects twice a day.
Wow.
I mean, gosh, God, Deirdre, this is how you work anyway, but people are cleaning constantly now.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to clean no matter what, I remember.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, these are folks doing extra duty.
Double time, right?
Yes.
Extra.
Yes.
Extra. And you know, the thing is like, I mean, we didn't know this was going to happen, right? So, I mean, I think we all have a new level of what we consider to be clean and sanitized, right? That we never thought we would. And this is what you guys are doing. And I know it has to be so challenging. I mean, even to think about, I mean, just for a moment, pause and think, I am going to work to clean and sanitize that place. And yet I still have to go home and do the same thing. Exactly. Or maybe not, right? Like that weight alone can be just feel exhausting. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I just put the question out, you know, are you guys getting all the cleaning supplies you need? You know, because it's hard to clean at that level at that time for, you know, for anybody, right, let alone a shelter.
I know that a lot of the stores are now starting to get stocked up. So now's the time to go out and check your stores.
Oh yeah, toilet paper aisles are filled. It is not a toilet paper issue anymore. But I did notice there aren't any Lysol wipes. And this is in Seattle. This may be different in other parts of the state, but there's a lot of spray cleaner. So that works. We're going to keep it moving here.
Okay.
Did we talk about staffing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
We touched on it. You know, some people, this isn't going to work for them anymore. They either need, you know, for folks that they have no choice and they need this job and this is their livelihood, they're going to stay working because they have to. Hopefully they got their government stimulus check. Hopefully, you know, hopefully they're able to just keep working and stay safe. But there are some people you are going to find are not able to stay working at the shelter, and that's okay. Right? That's okay. Right. Talked about coping mechanisms, not just for you as shelter workers and managers, but also you know, the clients and residents that you serve, right? We are all doing things just to keep it together. And it's, you don't have to confess what they are, but, you know, don't stop now. If
Right.
it's working for you, let it keep working for you. You all know that some coping mechanisms are kind of harmful and not good, but do what you need to do and just keep on keeping on. You're doing great. You're doing great. Homeschooling is breaking parents. I mean,
Totally.
you and I were talking, our kids are grown and adults and, you know, working and, you know, but I cannot imagine having to homeschool my daughter in the midst of all this. And she's an easy kid, right? I mean, there are people that have a lot of challenges with their children just on a regular basis, let alone having a homeschool. Do your best. Don't worry about screen time. That is what I've heard my other friends that are parents and homeschooling. It's not that they've given up, but you know what? It's okay. You know, and it's okay to bake chocolate chip cookies and measure things out and call that math. It's okay to take a hike and look at different plants and call that science, right? I know for those of you that are parents that are out there doing it and homeschooling and working, you know, I hope you know, there are resources out there to make it so you don't have to sit there and sit there at a table with your kid for 6 hours a day, right?
Right.
That'd break me.
Well, and I think about, you know, our advocates who are possibly at home taking care of their children, trying to provide advocacy. Like, I don't actually have the answer to how that's going to work perfectly. I know that's a possible struggle for some folks, a challenge for some people to juggle both of those things. And, you know, I'm just here to say, like, working at home is not for everybody. Like, some people don't want to work at home. They want to go into an office. It works that way for them. And so just keeping in mind that being at home could actually be a real challenge for some staff. So
we have a comment here that said, those examples are what real homeschool is like, right? Yeah. And I just replied back to Alita that, yes, if you've got homeschooling friends, connect with them. They will help you.
Yes.
This is part of their curriculum.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, back up one more. Was it boundaries was the last one?
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
You get some. That's what I get some. Create some. You know, boundaries, we always say rules come from outside. Rules are what you impose on yourself to keep things straight, to keep things where they need to be for your life. Boundaries come from within. Rules can turn into boundaries, right? So, and it's a really hard time to remember what your boundaries are, especially around how much you need to connect with staff. Like, are you able to turn it off at some point and have your personal private life with yourself, with your family, or are you basically on call 24/7, right? Because that's not good.
No.
You know, you don't need to be needed like that. You really don't. And I think it's really easy to get that out of balance right now because things are crazy.
Right. And if you think that you have to be on your tiptoes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, waiting, we should talk, because something's not okay about that. And, you know, I just think boundaries are important. I remember when I first started working at home every day, like, I didn't know how to turn it off, you know, and I found myself up really early. I was working till 7, 8 o'clock at night. The lines were so blurred, and I had to really set a boundary for myself. And the thing is, like, I was pretty good at setting boundaries, and then they all went out the window when this happened, right? So now I had to reassess and then get back into a place where I could really have good boundaries for myself. And I tell you, it pays off 100% when you can make the difference between work life and your personal life. And you have to take care of yourself. So that's really important. Mm-hmm. So this is a little small, but so as we know, this all happened so fast. How could we possibly be prepared for this? You know, like, it just makes no sense. How could we have been prepared for this? There was nothing to prepare us for what was about to happen. And, you know, there was no magic wand. There's no book to read. There's no solution. We're kind of just and there's not a lot of answers, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen next. But I think it just happened so fast that we made a lot of decisions within the last month and a half on what to do. And some of those decisions we probably should go back and look at and say, okay, are these things still working? How are they working? Are they still working? Do I need to reassess? So we made a lot of decisions based out of quickness and crisis. And it's real important to go back and look and see if everything that you've put in place is still working.
Well, and I think a lot of us here in Washington State, I know we have some programs from other states that registered. I don't know if they're online or not, but we literally wait for what Governor Inslee says about lockdown and sheltering in place, right? And we all are, that is what we respond to, on a federal level.
You forgot what you're
on a federal level, we are having to ferret out and dissect and make personal choices, responding to what the president says, because a lot of us don't trust that period. Right? There are other people at a federal level that I think people do trust, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Burke, there are people that do seem to, the doctors and the scientists do seem to actually be giving out solid, scientific, safe information. So wherever you choose to get your information from, whether it's from the president or your governor or your mayor or whatever town, right? We have to react to that. And doing so, just double check your facts, right? I mean, if you're told to shelter, I think Washington State has been really good about that, Yeah. I think we were kind of ahead of the game because we had one of the first cases here. So we have been responding really well. I'm really optimistic about it most of the time. Other times, just like you, I feel very hopeless and scared. But, we keep moving forward. What I think really affects you guys right now is, again, figuring out how to continue doing this work. We're talking about accepting and placing phone calls with your participants next. A lot of people that have remote advocacy, mobile advocacy, already do this. They figured out, that their staff have separate cell phones. Your crisis line is being run by people on call. And I think, you had to figure that out anyway. For programs that haven't had to do that, this is new. And this is about that first point there. This all happens so fast. So I think if you feel, I think you know what you're doing now. It's been a couple months, but there is help if you feel like you're stuck, right? Call the coalition, call your fellow call your fellow agency cohorts and find out what they're doing.
I mean, realistically, my first day staying home was March 5th, right? So if you think about it, I've been home all of March and we're still not out of April. And look how much has happened in March and April, right? I mean, it feels like a lifetime, but it's like, 8 weeks or whatever, right? And, things have just gone topsy-turvy in such a small amount of time. And we've all had to make large decisions, like how are people gonna work from home? Like that's generally something we plan for. That is a plan that goes in the budget. That's a plan that gets discussed and mapped out for months. And things like this actually took place in days, right? And yeah, there were probably mistakes made, but who cares? Whatever.
Kudos to all these programs that did respond so fast, especially the coalition. I mean, days. And decisions in days.
Yes. And I think all of our programs really did so well with like figuring stuff out, like how to do this. Granted, there's always these glitches with people at home using their personal phone. How do we problem solve that? So we have to take one step at a time to find out solutions so that someone's not using their personal phone to make a call to a participant. I had someone ask me, can staff take files home? And I thought, well, that's probably a no. So now that means you've got to come together and figure out how you're going to reach out to your participants without actually carrying files in your car, in your home, where anything could happen. What does that look like? That to me is where you go back to, let's have some video chat and have some conversation about problem solving some of this. How can we talk to our participants virtually, right? And I know that there's other things too, like people need resources. How do we get resources to folks? How do we connect with them to get them resources? So that's really about the managing remotely. Now your staff is out there in their homes, and your game now is to supervise folks on advocacy, providing advocacy to folks remotely, right? It's all in the air, right? So what does that look like? Talking it through, reassessing each situation to figure out what's the best solution to talk with folks, talk with our participants, everything. I mean, like, we've had Zoom calls forever, for a long time. We've had, three-way calls. I know we all know three-way. We had three-way calling when we had handheld phones back in the day. You just press the button down, then you press it again, right? So we know how to, like, hook up with folks and talk to people. We've got that down. We just have to problem solve and figure out what's the best solution to do the work that we're doing. And a huge part of that is because we've got this thing about confidentiality, and we really want to respect folks' confidentiality. And how do we do that while working virtually and remotely? How do we do that? What does that look like? And to me, it really looks like, I don't have a plan because every program is different, but what it looks like is you sitting down with the folks that you work with and figure out the best way to communicate with your participants. Because I might be a participant in your program and I might say to you, I only want emails. Don't call me. Don't Zoom chat me. Don't text me. Just send me an email. But that's what I prefer. Someone else might say text only. So we really have to listen to the desire of what people want and respect that. And that's how you communicate with your participants.
Well, I also think that is a great tip, Deidre, for you managers and supervisors out there this is a call to you to communicate with your staff how you want to be, how you want to be kept in the loop. Do you prefer text? Do you want your phone call? Do you want email? Just make that a priority. Like, does my team actually know how I want to be reached out to? How, right? And tell them,
right.
No harm, no foul. This isn't emotional. This isn't about your feelings. This is just about, this is what's going to work for this team. And it's okay. Whatever you've been doing, if it doesn't feel right, change it up. Right. Just change it up.
Right.
Were you done with your thought about that? Because I had one thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to cover about managing remotely is that managing staff now is extra hard, right? It's hard when you're sitting in the office. It's hard when this isn't going on. But right now it's extra hard. And you probably had a staff person, hopefully just one, maybe two, that was a underperforming staff person that, it was hard to manage this individual prior to all this happening. And how do you keep coaching and managing that staff person in the middle of all this, right? It's really hard. And I just think, ongoing documentation is good. If that person is not providing what they need to provide, no change, right? You're still documenting that. This is still all about the documentation. The other thought around that was somebody who is not very accountable for their time, I think is extra hard right now because people, you're not seeing them come and go. They're not, in front of you a lot, right? They're working from home. And oftentimes, this looks like the person that will want to Zoom call you and just flood you with information, and then they disappear for 2 days, right? Like, just really just kind of just try to meter that and say, listen, I appreciate you trying to connect, but I'd rather connect with you 10 minutes every other day, whatever works for you. But I just wanted to acknowledge that you do have some staff that are personnel issues, I guess we'll call it, that you have to continue to manage and continue to coach through this. And it's just extra hard. So again, reaching out to cohorts or to the coalition around how to successfully supervise somebody who has been a challenge is it's only going to help you. Because this is a hard time. And, some people take advantage of these situations. Other people thrive in these situations. You've got the gamut.
Right. And also don't assume that people aren't doing work just because you haven't talked to them, just because you haven't seen an email from them. Don't assume that they're not working. They could possibly be reading material or watching some video around domestic violence. Who knows? But I don't make an assumption. Never assume. Just ask questions and ask in a way that is guiding them to their success. So that could look like, hey, I want to set up a time to meet with you. Let's chat about what's going on. And then, you can provide some of those tips like, did you check out any books? Did you review any films? Did you go online? You can actually lead with those questions to guide them for their response. So I think that's actually helpful in a way to also think about, I know all of our staff need to get their hours, their training hours. And so we're really asking folks to go online and check out these webinars. If you guys are not getting, I mean, we're getting emails all the time about upcoming webinars. If you're not getting them, email us. Let us know that you're not getting these emails. We will send them to you, because trust me, we get tons of them. So there's lots of webinars out there that are going on from different programs across Washington, across the United States, that are free, that people could be doing. And yeah, so don't assume they're not doing anything. I would just ask.
Exactly. You have to, well, you do, you all trust each other a lot.
Right.
And I think trust your gut also, but
Right.
trust each other. Yeah.
Right. So we were just talking about this, about providing.
Oh, micromanaging. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Micromanaging. I mean, check your micromanaging tendencies. You catch more bees with honey than with vinegar. And that's my little cute bee. But to me, it's like, when you make assumptions that go into the worst direction, it's like, it just goes downhill from there. So start with like, I'll just assume that it's the best, and then we'll work our way through this conversation. Right. We'll work our way through this meeting. We'll work our way through my talking points. And then we'll go from there. And I think June hit the nail on the head when she said document. Like, you got to document those conversations. And what I do is I write everything down that we're talking about, and I send them a copy of it, because we both now know, like, I do a recap at the end. I say, this is what we talked about. Do you want to add anything? And then I send that document to them so they know what we talked about. And they can, say, Deirdre, I didn't say that, or I didn't say it like that. And we can have conversation about it. So I think just keeping those lines of communication open it's so important. Right. And I do realize that it can be exhausting depending on how many staff you're supervising. But I'll tell you, one of my important lessons that I've learned is that your advocates are actually what's keeping this agency and this program moving. And if those folks who are rowing this boat are not happy, if they're ill-informed, if they're not supported, if they're not pushed towards a way of being successful, you're going to start losing folks. And
right.
that program,
you can't afford to lose people right now.
Right.
We're going to talk about hiring in a minute, but if you all of a sudden had 2 shelter staff give notice and leave, oh man, right. That's crisis.
Right.
That's why I think, talking about readjusting goals is important, right? Like, just like there's rent relief or mortgage relief, if somebody's on a PIP, with a performance improvement plan, right? If somebody is already being managed, they know it. This is not a surprise. That doesn't just go away like rent relief. It's like, oh, I'm good now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. My PIP plan is out the window. The fact that I show up for my shift is good enough for them. I'm just going to coast. No, right? It continues. If somebody was underperforming before this, they're probably underperforming now, but improving. That's the hope, is that they're improving, and that your outstanding supervision and coaching and care is turning them into someone that is one of your superstar employees, right? That is the goal. Totally. But, assume positive intent, but in the face of constant proof that that's not working, that's where your documentation is going to save you. Because when this is all over, and it will be over, whether you have an HR person or team or department, or it's you are HR, you're going to have to react, right?
Right. And I think, this is what's happening right now is scene 1. Scene
That's
1.
a good way of putting it. Yep.
Right. And then scene 2 is going to come pretty soon, because we don't know. They are saying that possibly this could come back again in the fall and be very similar. Well, we don't know that. But now we kind of have a heads up. So let's prepare for scene 2, right? And what does that look like? So if you are working with staff that might be struggling, like, now's the time to start over, the next month or 2 is creating a plan for when this happens again. Maybe we're all quarantined at home again, talking about that. So now's the time to actually start doing some of that planning for scene 2. So sharing success. So type some thoughts about what's been going very well with your program. I know we heard about some folks that, you know, they're sanitizing each day, but what about, like, how are you meeting with your participants? What does that look like? How are you connecting with your participants?
I just typed in, I asked the group, any supervisions you'd like to share?
Right.
Supervision issues, just because I'm sure, you know, and
Right.
also successes. So
Yeah.
please use this chat box.
Yes. And right now we have 38 people in the
38
chat.
folks online.
Yeah. So we should see something. It's time to wake up.
Okay, you got your laundry put in the dryer, got your snack. You know, we know how these webinars go. Okay, we will wait for some chat. Let's keep pressing forward here.
All right.
Oh, these are some positive things. Thanks, you guys, because in the registration, we asked you literally what's been working for you. And these are some of the responses we got. Someone says, what's the question? I don't see it. Oh, okay. Any supervision issues you'd like to share? We won't call you out by name. I don't think the whole group can see the chat. Anyway.
They can see, it says all
Okay.
panelists.
Any supervision issues you'd like to share, and also any successes in addition to the ones that are up on the screen right now. We loved reading these. And you know, this may work for some and not all. I mean, the first one actually was interesting to me, that outreach has been huge. We've gotten most of our referrals from other agencies and businesses that know we can help. I mean, that sounds like it might be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
you know, because you're not looking to take in more folks at shelter. Yeah, so you can see there some great responses to that registration question.
Yeah. It was great that somebody said their management team began putting a COVID response protocol in place early. That's great. And if you have a COVID response protocol, please send that to me so I can see that and maybe see if I can share that with other people. That might be really helpful.
We have a couple of great responses here. That one program has learned new ways to do our jobs, and we have been able to we have been able to teach our prevention classes via Zoom. See, all this pivoting is fantastic. We now have a text service, so survivors have another option to reach us. Text advocacy. Hey, they're doing text therapy now, not just text therapy, but phone therapy, online therapy. There are ways to do this type of advocacy as well. I've seen a lot of stuff on Facebook and Instagram about, specifically through the coalition as well, about people being quarantined at home with an abuser and how to help kids stay safer and how they can stay safer, and to utilize all those. Checking in with shelter clients on the phone, new skills about how flexible we can be.
Yeah.
They're doing text, they're doing text, phone, and Zoom.
Yep.
Is KWA's Korean Women's Association?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, we have set up each computer with a webcam, including the computer for clients in the meeting room. We meet via Zoom, and clients don't need to have any tech skills. We set it up for them for their meetings with advocates. We have created a DocuSign account to serve folks outside the shelter who can no longer meet in order to sign ROIs. There's a great tech tip right there.
That is a great tip.
Releases of information, DocuSign. I love it.
I love it too. So
good job.
Please look into DocuSign. We do it at the coalition. And my only advice about DocuSign is, if you're going to create a form that you have folks sign, please do not make it filled with jargon. A lot of people react to signing papers that they really don't know how to navigate and understand. So they might resist to it when it seems pretty basic to you. And then some people just sign and don't read and don't know what they're signing. So I do think that even though it's a DocuSign, people need to be informed about what they're signing and what that means and where it will be kept. So please be considerate about DocuSign. It's easy. However, that too can have its flaws, where people don't read the information or people are not willing to sign because they're afraid. They just don't understand the language in the form.
Well, and an ROI, we know, is particularly important. right? And I think that having advocates need to know how to talk through it in a very basic language when they're explaining to people what an ROI is and what the time limitations are. And I think it's hard because it kind of looks like a legal document. There's a lot of kind of scary language in there, including legality stuff around confidentiality. And I think practicing that at a staff meeting, like how do you talk somebody through an ROI? It's a skill. It's an advanced advocacy skill. You should never just put the ROI in front of a client and say, please read and sign this, right? Advocates have to know what that is in great detail. And I just cannot highlight enough how important an ROI is, because if you've got somebody with a child custody situation, protection order situation, divorce, any sort of family law stuff, this document could make or break what the agency has to respond to. So I just place a lot of emphasis on the ROI. Dee, we are at 11:08, so we really need to kind of move through. If you're in the middle of a hire, any chat around how that's going for you?
And we're in the middle of hiring. Well, we've just kind of wrapped up our hiring process. So I just want to say that we've done it through virtual technology, obviously through Zoom. We've set up interviews, conversations, checked references, and it's been very successful, and we're really happy. It went really well. So I just want to say you can hire great folks through Zoom. And it works out. It works out really well. So don't be hesitant to try doing that approach.
Can I read a couple of these?
Yeah, please.
Okay. It brought to light how much we rely on body language to be a calming influence during moments of our high anxiety and crisis for our clients, and how our verbal skills can improve to offer similar type of support. It's a great tip.
Yeah.
And another one here says, our agency has seen a decrease in clients. It has been great to switch gears and work on community and school prevention. We are also getting a jump on our prep for DV Awareness Month, October, obviously. Great info on this site. It's www.techsafety, T-E-C-H.
Actually, all they need to do. Yeah.
And that is a resource that you'll get at the end of this as well. And here we are moving right into tech support.
Right. And if you want to, you can cut and paste what's in the chat and put it into your Google search. So you can just cut and paste and move it right now if you want to. And tech support. Yeah, so I wrote this, which I thought was funny. I didn't sign up for this because honestly, I am not tech savvy. If you would have heard the banter between June and I and Laurel prior to starting this video call, you would have probably laughed. And it's just not my thing, but I'm learning a lot. I mean, like, you're sitting at home. What else do you have to do is scroll through your phone and figure out how it actually works, and all the creative things that your phone can do that you never knew because you just never took the time, right? So it's really funny that when you have time, all the things you can figure out when you actually just pause and sit still for a second, right? So really with the tech stuff, a lot of our agencies didn't sign up for this because we're people, right? We're connecting with people, we're listening to people, we're, observing people, their emotions and their nonverbal cues. I mean, we're people. That's what we do. So the technology stuff is just kind of not like the thing that's in the forefront of our work. So this is actually new to us and new to a lot of people. And it's not just the technology, it's all the back ends of it, the costs of it, what it can do, what it can't do. It might be simple to us, but might be actually challenging for other people. So there's so much to read into this technology stuff that it actually takes time. Like you don't want to jump into anything too quickly because, then you're like, oh, I'm stuck in this contract or whatever it might be. So I really think it's important to sort of get someone who might know about technology, have them walk you through some stuff. There's going to be some links. Well, I don't want to say links. There's going to be some stuff later. You'll get these slides, but you can check out some of the stuff that we have. Right now, I put obviously Zoom, Microsoft Team Chat. Microsoft Team Chat is blowing up, you guys. It's up there with Zoom. They've got commercials about this stuff. At Whiskative, we use it. It's so helpful. I want to say, you know, thumbs up about Team Chat. If you don't know about it, check it out. I talked to another program where they're trying out Morse. It's called Text Morse. And it's a really interesting device that, you know, works with phones, and you set up a monthly thing, and there's a lot that you can do with it. So I've heard some stuff from folks about what they're using, but you can also go to NNEDV. They have a whole link about technology, resources, Zoom calls. They have information about that. So instead of me reinventing links, go to NNEDV. They have a lot of information to share. So we want to know, how are you conducting business if you don't have virtual technology? I truly believe that if you don't have, like, that's a thing that you would have set up at some point within your agency. And a lot of agencies didn't have it. I mean, they had computers, but their computers didn't have cameras, right? People weren't expected to work from home. So do they actually have enough laptops for all their staff to go home and work from home? Maybe not. Was that in the budget? So I want to hear from folks, like, how is that working for you? Like, how did you?
Especially rural programs.
Yeah.
Right? Because we kind of know how it's working, you know, up and down the I-5 corridor here in Seattle, King County. But for those of you from rural programs, how are you doing? Like, any tips? How are you doing this?
Right. Because when you think about, like, now you kind of know, like, when you go back and reassess, like, what you're going to be asking for when you do your next fundraiser, you might be, we need 20 laptops, right? So you kind of know, but how are you working it out now? Are people using their personal devices? Is that working? Are you offering an extra stipend to pay for folks' Wi-Fi? I don't know. Are you helping people with their cell phone bills? What are you offering to people to sort of offset them using their personal devices? Are you talking about?
I just want to interject here. If you're not helping staff with a partial payment on their, it could be 25 per month per staff, right? Just something really makes a huge difference. It's a real morale booster for one, especially if they are using their personal cell phone for any agency business. And this final question here is, how do you fund your upgrades, right? We are all hoping that there is an actual tech line item in your annual budget for your agency, that tech and infrastructure is part of that. And you've all been tested greatly in the past couple of months around your tech capabilities, because you've had to rely on doing remote advocacy and remote connection with your staff. So just really taking a hard look at how you're funding your tech and how you're funding your upgrades. And one idea I had is, typically there's a lot of training and travel money that's left on the table at the end of a budget cycle, right? Even though we advocate hard for having a training budget, the reality is not everybody uses it. And as a group, the entire amount is typically not used. So maybe when you do a budget reforecast, really looking at that travel and training budget and maybe redirecting toward tech, because that is the great need right now. We have some great
go ahead.
responses here. Let's see. Someone says, I use my phone. Okay. Our fantastic executive director has obtained local and state grants to buy staff equipment for home offices. Yes. For those of you that are now doing remote advocacy and working primarily from home, the agency can and should help you set up that home office, whatever it is. We got a technology grant and we're able to purchase 2 more laptops and more iPads as well. Oh, hey, Tina.
That's great.
Yeah. Loaner laptops from our county agency. Okay, so if you're part of a bigger agency, tapping into that part of your programming to help you out. We are, in another one, we are really small and have the executive director, shelter manager, and legal advocacy going into work daily. Okay, Prevention is working from home, and one shelter advocate is laid off. So we
Yeah.
aren't really needing to work from home much. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I've heard that too about people rotating in the office. So I was really clear with someone mentioning, you know, like our office, technically you could go in, but we'd have to figure out a way to make sure that we rotated folks in and out of the office and make sure things were sanitized. So folks are doing that in their office where they're rotating staff in and out. Maybe there's one person in there a day or two people in a day, and they keep distance from each other and they sanitize as they come in and as they leave. So there are ways to keep that process happening.
And again, that's a great reminder, Deidre, to, you know, start thinking of your phase-in plan, right? Because at some point this will end. For other program, like big companies like Zillow has told their staff they are working from home the rest of the year through December. Huge move, right? And that was mostly to save, no, not save, to help out parents, because parents are going week to week, month to month with kids and childcare and school, and to be able to just give them the information right now that they are literally working from home the rest of the year. That sounds overwhelming, but it also probably really helps out in their plan, you know, trying to plan their life. Now, obviously in our world of shelter and domestic violence, we're not doing that, right? The shelters are open. So, but a phase-in plan for back in the office can be helpful. Another comment here is that one program was able to procure laptops for staff. There are 7 staff, redirected office phones to a cell phone that we rotate between staff to answer from home. And we rotate who comes into the office every day to get paperwork done. Calls have dropped significantly. Thank you for that. Okay. Rotating staff, 1 admin, on-call advocate, and backup advocate. Okay.
Yeah.
Great responses. Thanks, you guys. And kind of the bulk of this is, sorry, I'm looking at my laptop, a lot of resources for you.
Yeah.
And we want
to make
sure
I just went to the next slide so that you guys could see these tips. Some of these are on our website. Many of you already know about these tips. I couldn't list them all. I just kind of like grabbed a bunch and I put them on here. There's more on our website, and you can check that out for yourself. And those are just a couple of hints to what's you'll find on our website. And a lot of our website actually just links you to other websites that have the information. So I just want you to know that we're out there getting information so that you can come to our website and just get it easily. Let me go to the next one. So the National Network to End Domestic Violence, again, they have, I can't even tell you how much information they have. Like, I went to their website and I was like so overwhelmed with the resources and information they had. I actually wanted to put it all in this webinar, but I was like, I can't. So I just got super excited, and I just want you to know, these are just small snippets of what NNEDV has, and you really should check out a lot. And if you have, awesome, share with other people. Please pass on information to other people. And go have all your advocates go to this website, do some of their webinars, click onto their links and get their information. It is a resource that is just rich with information. I was so excited. I was like, I could do a whole webinar on just NNEDV.
Exactly. NNEDV is rich with resources and expertise.
Yes. And about technology. They have a lot of stuff.
In particular. Yeah.
Okay, here, additional self-study. I say additional self-study because, and you'll get these slides, I promise you. And I know these look like links, but I can't cut.
They're not, they're fake links.
Right, and I can't cut paste. That's beyond my scope of capability. But we put this here because I really want people to know, like, even though you've got these webinars and Wiscative is doing webinars, we've cut our full day trainings down to webinars, which are shorter hours. And we know that people need to get their hours to fulfill their deliverables and their contracts. So we really want folks to know that there's information out there that advocates could be reading, webinars that they could go to, things on different websites, because they're going to have to log that stuff when the reporting time comes. So we're really encouraging people to check out these things, because our webinar is only an hour and a half. It's not a 5-hour training like it normally is. So I'm encouraging folks to do some self-study, encourage your staff to do self-study, and all of that counts to their hours towards their deliverables. So please remember that, and have them, you know, if you're wondering what your advocates are doing, they could be doing this, right? If you have questions, I really encourage you, please contact us. You can call us. You can call us personally. You can leave us emails. You can put all of our emails in the slide and send it to every one of us. We will get back to you as soon as we can. We love your questions. We don't mind actually calling your program and spending an hour or two with folks on the phone. You know, we can be with your staff. We love talking to you guys. We love spending time with you guys. We want to, and this is great because we used to, you know, come out and do TA visits. Well, now we can just, you know, talk to many more people because it's virtual. So please don't hesitate to call us if you have questions that, you know, might require a discussion. I've been doing that with a couple of programs where we're just troubleshooting some of their questions. It's great. And we're open to doing that. If you have questions about your funding, about how you're supposed to be reporting, please call your funders. Please call your contract monitors. I did some checking with them and they advised me, the coalition, that if you guys have questions about how you're tracking, how you're putting stuff into InfoNet, policies and procedures, check with your funders. You have to talk with them. If you're going to change anything, you got to talk to them first. I don't have the authority to make those decisions, so please check with your funders. And the Department of Health, I have been told they have a lot of great information as well on their website. They've been getting loads of questions, so they're putting information on their website to answer those questions. So if you think you have a question, they might already have an answer to it. So please check out the Department of Health website. They have lots of information for you as well.
Can I pause right here?
Please.
Tina, I'm a little confused on whether this was a question. It says this was a tip of their program. They have a shared calendar and everyone puts their schedule for the day on it so they can see what's going on, what's available remotely. So again, shared calendars with your team. And then Tina, you said live/webinar training is tight for a few due to so many conference and event cancellations.
Yeah, yes, someone wrote, yes, the fear that we won't have enough hours, they won't have enough. So right now,
I see. Got it.
Live training hours, like these webinars are sort of filling in for that. So if people are doing webinars, that will count towards their in-person trainings because we obviously can't do in-person trainings right now. You can also check.
Right, yeah. And these resources, you can spend additional time reading through this and it counts towards this webinar training.
Yes, yes, right. So, yeah, please don't hesitate to make sure folks are doing some reading, doing some webinars, even if they decided to take a walk to see if there were new, you know, community things in your own community, to just do a check, like did a new business pop up that we don't know about? Is there a connection in the community that I want to learn more about and maybe we could collaborate? Are there children's services that we can refer people to? I mean, just be as creative as possible and use that time, but mark that time down as learning, self-study.
So question to the big group here, have other programs seen a drop in hotline calls?
I have heard that there's been a drop in hotline calls, and I think part of that is because people are assuming that a lot of the programs are not functioning. And so, you know, I talked to one organization that said they have been out posting flyers, and they are also updating their website to indicate we are still providing services. So folks will know when they come to their website that they're still operating, and what function that they're operating in. So there's a lot of people responding, yes, they have definitely seen a big drop.
So I guess part of this is just take this as a breather then, your hotline portion of your services, right? If you're seeing a consistent drop in calls and on your crisis line, just exhale at this point. This is your chance to regroup, just like it's your chance at home, right? Being quarantined at home is a chance to be in your home, right? You're living in your house or apartment hard right now. You've probably never cooked so much in your life. Okay, that's just me. But, you know, it's just a different lifestyle for many who are working a lot to just be there. So just really, I mean, some of the most inspirational things I have seen are looking at all these things as opportunities and being able to keep looking forward to what these changes are going to bring us. You know, I've resisted that term, this is our new normal, you know, I don't know, you know, it's a new routine. It's definitely changing things up. You know, what is normal, right? It's just what we've done a lot. So that we're pliable, we're resilient, we're incredibly resilient.
Exactly.
And I think that as we move forward, you know, we're going to see how we readjust and bob and weave, you know, right. We really will. And again, I will repeat for the umpteenth time, you're doing great. What you're doing is enough. You do not have to drive yourself, your family, your staff crazy with what you think you should be doing. You're doing it. You're showing up. You're inspiring people. You literally are helping every day you do your job. So,
and we hear that. We hear that all these programs are doing, just figuring out how to provide this service in their communities. We're hearing about that. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. If you guys have other questions that we didn't get to, go ahead and put those in the chat box. We've got just a few minutes left, just a couple of minutes left. So if we didn't answer something for you, or if you want to put something out there, go ahead and put in the chat box. Yeah, and we're here for you guys. Call us, talk to us. And thanks for being, you know, here for us and listening to us, and we're so glad you participated, and we just appreciate you.
I know. Thanks for taking time, because it's hard to carve out.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you again. Yes, look for more information from Whiskative in our webinar. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Laurel, for running all the tech in the background for us.
Thank you.